Photographer Debbie Raziel spent the past 3 years taking pictures of children with autism spectrum disorders all over the world. She discovered that while living conditions, resources, and treatment vary by region, autism presents the same. Mother to a 25-year-old with autism, the New York-based documentary photographer started her project because of a desire to bridge the gap between two of the things she's most familiar with, autism and art. Her project, titled Picturing Autism, was on view at the Soho 20 Chelsea Gallery in Manhattan, New York, and most recently in Hanoi, Vietnam.
Hello and welcome to Talk Vietnam. Autism is much more common than many people think. In the United States, where our today's guest comes from, 1 out of 68 children has an autism spectrum disorder, also known as the ASD. It is our pleasure to have in our studio today Debbie Raziel, who is going to share with us her journey to explore the world of autism through photos, both as a professional photographer and as a mother to a son with autism. Hi, Debbie. Thank you very much for coming to our show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Let's start with how did you come up with the idea of picturing autism, and could you tell us how it all began?
It began actually as an idea in 2010, so it took a while to actually realize it. So in 2010, it started as Autism Is. I brought up the idea with one of my, with the director of a program where my son went to school, and the idea came from just autism, the notion that autism is many things, and people might try to reduce it to just one notion, and the idea of maybe a child who is hitting his head or in a corner just rocking, maybe they don't know it all, maybe they've never heard of it. So I just thought it was time to try to show the multitude of what possibilities of what autism is. I started to wonder what that would be like traveling to other countries and what the connection could be. And what autism was in other countries, and that's how the project evolved.
So your project started from your own personal story.
Yes, it did.
Your mother to a son with autism. If I may ask, how is your son doing?
My son is doing well. It is, with autism, it's never, it's always going to be hard. It's always it's not, the good times, it's not day by day, it's not month by month, well, it's always month by month. He is doing well. In the US and in many countries, we have something called group homes, where young adults can live independently, well, semi-independently, with around-the-clock staff. Sometimes, if they're more independent, they have staff that live separately and checks in. My son lives with staff that are there 24 hours, and he is very happy to not be living at home. He has a job playing piano at different facilities. They match his interest, which is playing piano and reading stories. Not every state is as good in their group homes in matching interests with jobs. Right. In the state where he is, that is the case. We're lucky.
The following red flags might indicate your child is at risk for an autism spectrum disorder. If your child exhibits any of the following, please don't delay in asking your pediatrician or family doctor for an evaluation. No big smiles or other warm, joyful expressions by 6 months or thereafter. No back and forth sharing of sounds, smiles, or other facial expressions by 9 months. No babbling, no back and forth gestures such as pointing, showing, reaching, or waving by 12 months. No words by 16 months. No meaningful two-word phrases. not including imitating or repeating, by 24 months. Any loss of speech, babbling, or social skills at any age.
You once said that every moment is a story and every photo has a story. Can you tell us some of the stories behind the most striking photos that you ever taken?
The most interesting photos, I'm just thinking about in Iceland, this boy, this young man who I went to go see him, and he was just biting his hands, just biting and biting his arms and hands. And I mean, it was just because some autistic people, young people and older people, it was called self-injuring. And I mean, it was shocking. His hands, the welts and the marks, and were just, and I did want to document this part of autism, and I hadn't up until that time. And actually, I did think that Iceland might be a good place, that it might be, in Iceland, people, just personalities. They tend to be very direct. It has been something in Iceland that has been acknowledged. Autism has been acknowledged for a while there. And so I said to the father, I said to him, would it be okay? Would you mind, if I started taking the picture? And he said, I'll never forget this, he said, he's used to himself. Let everyone else get used to him. And he said, that's fine. And so I remember taking these pictures, and that was hard. And what was so amazing is that I started taking those photos, and then we were on, this is what he said, now let's go to his studio. And I was not expecting this. We went to this studio that was his full-on painting studio. In the next minute, he was, from biting his arm like that, we went to this studio where he was painting. He put on these gloves, he covered up the welts, and he, like surgical gloves, and he was like in this passionate moment, painting 4 canvases at once. Then he has this layered approach, and then he would take a blow dryer out and start blowing them dry, because he didn't want to wait for the paint to dry, because he had his like passion, he had a moment, he had a vision, and then he would start painting the next layer. There was no biting there. It was like he was transformed, because autism is never one thing. One of my other favorite pictures is, I have a picture of a little boy in Peru with a horse. And the entire way to ride the horse, to get to the horses, he was crying and biting his arm also. And I didn't take pictures of that because I didn't know the mother at that point. The boy just kept crying and crying, and the mother kept trying, she was anxious, she was nervous, and she said, I know Spanish, so luckily I just, somewhat, and she just kept saying, let's just get to the horses, let's just get to the horses. And I was like, okay, let's just get to, I didn't really understand why we needed to get to the horses. The minute we got to the horses, again, transformation. Wow. This boy got on that horse, you would think, he was doing full on, like with the posture and like dressage almost, he became part of the horse.
So you have taken a lot of photos and you have experienced a lot of amazing transformation of kids with autism. So what is the key message you would like to convey to the public through those pictures that you've taken?
Is that autism is never just one thing. Don't ever just write these children and adults off just on first impression. Because there is a way there's a way in. There's always a way in. There's always something that every person with autism can do. This boy here is so smart. He is so capable. So he takes care of little things in their house. He is smart. All he wants, he said, he looks at the construction going on around his house, and around the area in his house. He said, I would love to be a construction worker, but everyone here just looks at me and says I'm too crazy. He's not crazy, he's capable. All he needs is a job coach, someone who would just take him and help him just get him to the point where he could learn to do the simplest thing. And the thing about autism is many autistic people are very careful and they love repetition. And they like it to be done a very certain way and it has to be done right. That's a wonderful skill.
Right.
Why wouldn't we want that? Don't judge so fast. There's always a way in. Find that skill. See what's going to help that person. You've got to start integrating them into society.
Everywhere I go, we speak an international language of autism. We all feel the same concern, the same struggle. Debbie Rousel said this when she opened her solo exhibition, Picturing Autism Vietnam in Hanoi on March 26th. Let's take a closer look.
On July the 16th, 2014, Debbie received a letter from a 16-year-old boy.
Hi, Miss Raziel. I'm from Vietnam and I have a brother with autism. I hope that you will come to Vietnam to take photos of people with autism here. I think this will help us much.
This is the letter that brought Debbie to Vietnam. Hi, the letter's writer is also here at the exhibition.
Khi em nhận được hồi đáp thì em cảm thấy rất vui và rất là bất ngờ. Đây bức ảnh này được chụp trên con tàu đi ra Vịnh Hạ Long. Lúc đó là có cả bà, cả mẹ. Em đang ngồi chơi rất là vui vẻ. Thì bác ấy đã chụp đúng khoảnh khắc này. Và như thế, mắt của em nhìn rất là sâu và nhìn rất có hồn. Cảm thấy rất thích, rất vui với bức ảnh này.
After receiving Hi's letter, Debbie came to Vietnam twice in June and December last year. She photographed people with autism and their families across Vietnam. Nearly 20 photos of the 7 families photographed were chosen to be on display. My Anh's first child, Hiếu, was born in 1990. When Hiếu was 2 years old, he stopped developing and started to show increasingly strange behavior. He couldn't even recognize his parents. My Anh left her job and stayed home to take care of her son. The husband and wife had to live apart from each other as he had to work far from the family's home to earn a living.
Thật sự là cái cuộc chiến với cái hội chứng tự kỷ của gia đình rất là dài và chắc chắn nó còn dài nữa. Chính vì vậy mà nhiều lúc là bản thân tôi cũng như là mọi người gia đình cảm thấy mình kiệt quệ, và những cái bức ảnh như của chị Baby đây đã khiến cho bản thân tôi lấy lại được những cái năng lượng mà mình cảm giác là mình đã không còn nữa.
Chúng tôi thì luôn học hỏi lẫn nhau. Với tư cách là mẹ của bé tự kỷ thì chúng tôi luôn học hỏi. Và ở Debbie tôi học hỏi đấy là một cái bản lĩnh, tình yêu thương và sự chia sẻ.
The photographs not only encourage families with autistic members, but more importantly, they also help the community to understand more about the world of autism.
Tôi thấy một điều là hóa ra là cái thế giới của những đứa trẻ tự kỷ ấy, nó lại có những cái màu sắc nó rất là khác, có cả niềm vui, có hạnh phúc và hầu như là những cái người xung quanh đều yêu thương họ. Bức ảnh mà mình thích nhất thì là bức ảnh này. Bức ảnh ở phía sau một cậu bé ở đằng sau con ngựa. Nó có cái gì đấy nó rất là hút hồn, và nhìn vào đôi mắt đấy thì mình cảm giác là mình có thể kết nối được với lại cái thế giới đấy, với lại những người đấy, và mình muốn tìm hiểu nhiều hơn.
This exhibition is Debbie's present for those parents who continue to believe in a better future for their children.
It is for the parents who love and care for their sons and daughters in a world where they are overlooked and undervalued, for the siblings who endure the stigma among their peers, and for all of the families who struggle daily with the challenges of ASD and hold on to every moment of joy.
You first exhibited your photos on autism in your hometown, New York. Mm-hmm. And this time you had an exhibition in Vietnam. Is there a particular reason for this?
This is the place because I felt like it's right now, I just feel like there's so much possibility here. This is where things are going to change. This is where it can happen. People are very smart here. People are resourceful and they're kind-hearted, just very kind-hearted. And I think that it's just a matter of, it's just the level of intelligence is way up here, and the level of awareness is way down here. And it's that gap. That gap can be filled. And that's what needs to happen. And I do believe in the kindness, inherent kindness. And it's got to be through awareness. That's what it's going to take. But in order for that awareness to happen, it's got to be through integration. It's got the isolation can't continue. Doors have to open in schools, in jobs, in communities. There are too many people with their children in their homes, ashamed. And it's like that everywhere. I'm not saying it's only Vietnam. I'm not saying that at all. I mean, I don't want to just point the finger. I'm just saying at Vietnam and say that's, but I'm just saying here, I think the possibilities are great here for change.
Now, on the poster of your exhibition here in Hanoi, you wrote, "We live in a world that would prefer to look away from people with autism. However, within the art world, to look is the point."
Yes.
Could you elaborate more on this? And how did you make people look at your photos?
In New York, the autism awareness campaigns there, which have been very successful since the time of my son's diagnosis in 1993, when no one knew, except the medical community somewhat, what autism was. There had been a lot of awareness campaigns. They had been very successful. Celebrities came out, politicians came out, which is what I'm hoping will happen here, by the way, with their children with autism. And they were children everywhere on magazine covers, and they were in movies, and but they didn't look like, people were still seeing my son, people walking on the streets with autism. It didn't look like necessarily the people on the magazine covers, and so they knew that was autism, but I could tell maybe they were a little uncomfortable and they weren't quite sure. So I thought, okay, what if I make life-size portraits, life-size pictures of what autism looks like in locations around the world, as many as I could get to in those couple of years, and give people kind of a safe space outside of the realm of parents and caregivers, and just so they're safe. The people that are separate, they could kind of wander in, because in New York there's like a gallery. Chelsea was kind of an area where there are lots of galleries. So unsuspecting viewers might just kind of wander in, and it's like, wow, okay, these are life-size portraits of autism. And then they're free to get up close and just kind of stare. And that's fine, because I want them to have a chance to engage.
Your exhibition reflects your research into autism and how it and what it looks like across different culture barriers. Tell us more a bit about this aspect.
So for me, one of the things that I wasn't sure about, and what I wanted to discover and see if it would be, because once I realized all autism sounded the same and looked the same, would it be possible to connect with mothers and families from a remote fishing village from Iceland to a hilltop in Peru, someplace remote from there? I mean, and what I found is that it is. I mean, even with, you get these really good, the best translators it's almost like they just fall away. And we're talking, at the end of the day, we end up just sitting around a table and we just start talking. And the real language is autism. And that's what we talk about. As mothers, we start, and it really is. I mean, I'm connecting mother to mother typically. So as we're talking, the language falls away. And the real language is autism. And our connection is so strong. Our connection is so, the words are translated, but the emotions, the feelings, we're worried about, are we putting too much burden on the other siblings? We're worried who's going to love our children after we're gone and really take care of them the way we want them to be taken care of. Mm. It's all similar. I mean, yes, it's what's not similar are access to services, resources, and that's huge. I don't want to minimize that. Mm. But when you get down to just the bottom, gut-wrenching, deep family issues that mothers and fathers care about, and I've had with the mothers and the fathers, we sit there, and it's heartbreaking. We can come to we try to hold back tears. Sometimes we're not good at that. We start crying. It's very it's very emotional.
Now let's take Vietnam as an example. Based on your experiences here, how do you think autism in Vietnam is similar to or different from autism in other parts of the world?
It is similar in that it all looks the same. The sounds, they're all making the same sounds, which is amazing to me. So that part's the same. They're all making the same hand movements. They're all making, but what is different is the family dynamic can be different. There is there can be a sense of shame that all families have that can be, Vietnam, depending on where you are, is a very traditional society. It seems, that's my read, and I don't want to judge too quickly because I only have, I've got to know the little bit I've known, but people do tell me that that is one of the things that has held them back from getting their children diagnosed early. They didn't, either their parents didn't want them to, the grandparents. So I think being such a traditional society, I think in a way has sometimes hindered early intervention. Getting your child diagnosed once you start to see certain signs of autism and getting treatment. I think that the shame issue is really, in some areas of Vietnam, really been a struggle.
Mm. As part of her project, Picturing Autism, Debbie Raziel has visited many families with autism in Vietnam, including those in Hanoi. As a mother to a son with autism, she has found a strong connection with them. Let's follow her and find out more.
This is the second time that Debbie has visited Ian's family in Hanoi. The first time was in December last year when Debbie photographed Tung, Ian's 19-year-old son, as part of her 3-year project photographing people with autism. Although Tung already knows her, Debbie doesn't want to make him feel uncomfortable with the continuous napping sound of the camera. As a mother to an autistic son, Debbie understands Tung's feelings. After a while, she stops taking pictures and leaves the room.
Mình thích chị Debbie là chị thích tìm hiểu về cuộc sống của những người tự kỷ gia đình ấy. Nó không giống những người khác. Những người khác người ta khơi sâu vào những cái khó khăn hoặc là những cái đau buồn. Thế nhưng mà Debbie là một người mẹ, cho Debbie lại không khơi vào cái mảng đó mà Debbie tìm những cái giây phút hạnh phúc.
Debbie proudly shows Ian her photos she has taken in other places, including one in Vietnam.
He didn't care. His priority was making sure his grandson was okay, and I was so touched.
Trusting Debbie's skills as a professional photographer from New York, but above all, as a mother that sympathizes with her, Ian agrees to let Debbie take photos of her son for the exhibition.
Mình rất muốn rằng là thông qua những hình ảnh của nhà mình, rồi của các gia đình khác ấy, thì cộng đồng sẽ nhìn thấy mặc dù các con là khuyết tật, mặc dù các con rất là khó khăn, thế nhưng mà cuộc sống vẫn là cuộc sống, tức là mẹ vẫn phải yêu thương con, rồi cuộc sống chúng tôi vẫn cứ phải tiếp tục, và cái hay hơn nữa tức là mình nhìn thấy cái niềm vui trong cái nỗi vất vả của các gia đình ấy, thì chị thấy là mọi người xem vào đó mọi người sẽ thấy là đấy là cái nguồn động viên cổ vũ cho các cha mẹ cố lên.
After 19 years of experience, now it is much easier for Yến to take care of her son. However, like any parent with autistic children, Yến always hopes that the society will understand what autism clearly is and show more empathy towards her son and the other children.
Người ta hay so tự kỷ với thần kinh, với lại tâm thần, và người ta nhìn thấy giống như là những người gần như là không còn hy vọng gì nữa, và có giang tay ra chẳng qua chỉ là thương thôi, chứ không phải là ta cùng đi hoặc là cùng hỗ trợ đồng hành. Thế cho nên là mình nghĩ là cần phải làm nhiều hơn nữa để cộng đồng hiểu rằng đây là những con người ta cũng có những cái tính cách, cũng có niềm vui và cũng có khả năng. Thế nếu như chúng ta hỗ trợ thì sẽ phát triển được cái khả năng của họ, và người ta sẽ thấy rằng là những người tự kỷ cũng sẽ là những người mà có một đóng góp cho xã hội, chứ cũng không phải là chỉ là gánh nặng cho gia đình và cho xã hội thôi.
In Vietnam, you have visited Tung's family for several times. Could you tell us more about the bond that you have had with him and his family?
Wow, I mean, what a lovely family. I think that one of the issues for me when I travel to other countries, it takes a long time. I don't rush in to try to bond quickly with children, young adults with autism. You don't rush into bond. I am connecting my physical presence. I want to make sure that the child with autism is at least understands I'm in the room, feels my presence. Before I start taking the camera out and snap, you know, with Tum's mother, very, very strong. And just the family dynamic is beautiful. And I can comment on the strength of that, the intimacy of their connection. I had the privilege of being invited for lunch. And when I was there and watching Tum and his mother, Yen, in the kitchen preparing lunch as if it was like a dance, this beautiful dance, that they were like dance partners for years. And they just, I was so moved watching them in the kitchen together. It was beautiful, and I felt so privileged to be invited in. I don't take things like that for granted. That to me is just, I feel so lucky.
How about other Vietnamese families that you have visited and taken photos of? And how did you connect with them, despite the language barrier?
Oh, wow. I feel it's a very deep connection. I don't, no, it's just, I feel very close to them. The bond is immediate.
How did those visits help you understand better about autism in Vietnam and people living with autism, as well as their families? And what impressed you the most throughout those visits?
I think that it's the strength. I think that to be in a country where the awareness is so low, and to see the kind of strength and the women in the Vietnamese Autism Network, these mothers that are forging this path, this trail, where there is nothing, where there are no services, no government support, nothing, no community support, and they're making it happen. They're creating an incredible network. They are my heroes. I mean, I gather strength from them. When I go back and my son is doing this flapping, or whatever he's doing, you know, these strange movements that people with autism do, I think of these families. I think of these women, these mothers, these fathers, and I think, okay, I'm fine, and I carry on. I take a lot with me. I do when I come here. I think of it, these are very strong families. And I think it's, for me, I mean, I just see a lot of strength and determination and love and family warmth and the grandparents, I'm very moved by that. That's what's unique in Vietnam. I love the 3 generations. I don't see that in other countries so much. The generations living together are so involved.
So what is the toughest challenge you have ever encountered while pursuing your project, Picturing Autism?
I think always knowing which pictures to put in the show and what the cost is to a parent and making that judgment. How hard will that be for that parent? Is it worth even asking that of that parent? Sometimes I don't want to even ask because what I do is, I get emotional even thinking it's hard. I send everybody their wall text completely. There's it's total transparency. And what I say for the benefit of autism awareness, because it is about my art. I'm not going to say, none of it's about me. Of course it is. I'm an artist. I want to put my work out there. But it's also, I am a mother, and I am there for everybody. These are I take their picture. I'm so protective of the children, of the mothers.
Con tôi thì sinh năm 2002. Khi mà tôi phát hiện ra cháu là thấy cháu chậm nói và không thấy có những hành động như những trẻ bình thường, ví dụ như là cướp đồ hoặc tranh đồ. Cháu rất là hiền, cả ngày có thể chơi một cái giấy bóng. Mãi về sau đến khi cháu được 7 tuổi thì tôi mới hiểu rõ về cái chứng bệnh tự kỷ của cháu. Thì bắt đầu quyết tâm là can thiệp cháu, là lúc bây giờ cháu đã 7 tuổi mất rồi. Thì bây giờ cháu cái ngôn ngữ gần như cũng không có.
According to the Ministry of Labour, Invalids and Social Affairs, some 200,000 cases of autism have been diagnosed so far in Vietnam. It is estimated that 1 in 100 children in Vietnam has an autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. The National Hospital of Pediatrics reports that the number of children diagnosed with the autism spectrum disorder has increased by 50 times in 2007 compared to the number of cases in 2000.
Một số nghiên cứu thì đưa ra mấy vấn đề có thể gây ra trẻ tự kỷ. Một là có vấn đề bất thường về não, thứ hai là vấn đề di truyền, thứ ba là ảnh hưởng do môi trường. Tuy nhiên thì xác định chính xác là nguyên nhân do gây ra trẻ tự kỷ thì đến bây giờ vẫn còn nhiều bàn cãi. Mặc dù vậy thì các nhà khoa học cũng nghĩ nhiều đến vấn đề rối loạn do gen, do nhiều gen và sự thoái hóa của gen.
To mark World Autism Awareness Day on April the 2nd, the Vietnam Autism Network, along with the Ministry of Labour, Invalids and Social Affairs, held the Vietnam Autism Awareness Day for the first time, using day as an excellent opportunity to promote greater awareness about autism.
Nhận thức của cộng đồng thì có tầm quan trọng lớn đối với cuộc sống của người tự kỷ. Thì chúng tôi muốn nói tới sự thấu cảm, sự chia sẻ và sự tôn trọng cái quyền lợi và quyền được sống giống như những người khác của những người tự kỷ, chứ không phải là những sự thương hại hoặc là những cái sự đòi hỏi một cách thái quá từ những nhóm người yếu thế. Và đây là những cuộc sống công bằng. Thì khi mà xã hội có nhận thức đúng về tự kỷ thì những người sống xung quanh những người tự kỷ sẽ hiểu hơn này, biết cách ứng xử với họ theo cách mà họ sẽ không bùng nổ và họ có thể ứng xử như những người bình thường khác. Thì đó là những cái điều mà chúng tôi mong muốn khi mà chúng tôi có cái nhiệm vụ là nâng cao nhận thức trong xã hội.
Autism spectrum disorder was only recognized in Vietnam in the late 1990s. However, it took 10 years before parents could see the benefits of early intervention through sending their children to pediatric hospitals or special education centers. Speaking at the seminar, experts and representatives stressed that the lack of human resources is a significant challenge for the campaign to mitigate the effects of autism in Vietnam. People with autism's needs for education, rehabilitation and health care are not always fulfilled.
Hiện nay thì lực lượng giáo viên cũng như là cán bộ xã hội để mà trợ giúp cho cái người tự kỷ thì còn rất là thiếu. Thì chúng ta cũng còn thiếu nhiều cái sự hiểu biết và kiến thức về tự kỷ. Cái đó cũng cần phải được nâng cao, cần phải có cái đưa ra cho được những cái nhận dạng sớm đối với các cháu. Vì có nhiều khi là các cháu bị chứng tự kỷ nhưng mà ở mức độ khác nhau gia đình cũng không biết. Sau này khi lớn lên mới biết thì có thể cũng là can thiệp muộn.
Autism has been recognized as a complex development disability in many countries, but not yet in Vietnam. Governmental support for people with autism in Vietnam is still limited. No laws or policies have been developed to support people with autism. Therefore, there are discussions about adding people with autism to the disability law, so Vietnam can build a national strategy to protect the rights of people with autism.
You mentioned earlier that Vietnamese people still have quite low awareness on autism. So why is it, in your opinion, and what should we do to make it better?
There has to be integration. There has to be, because that's the way awareness happens. I will speak to that. I can't tell you why, I can just tell you how. I can just tell you that what has to happen is that, for instance, I always see these children in school uniforms and young adults, they're out and they're practicing music and dancing, and I'm thinking, wow, autistic children love music and dancing. Why wouldn't, okay, there are these centers with autistic children who already have teachers, who already have, I think I have a picture, oh look, there we go. They love music, they love dancing. Why not have a school that already exists that is doing music and invite them over? They already have staff and teachers. That's where it starts. Start integrating.
Integrating.
Yeah.
So from what you have observed in Vietnam, what concerns you the most when talking about those living with autism who are now becoming adults?
There's nowhere for them to go. I mean, grandparents are going to die, parents are going to die, and then what? What? I mean, it's just, some have siblings, but siblings, I mean, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. There are more and more people diagnosed every day for who, I mean, it's not even, who knows why, it's not even the point to go into that, but it is a fact. And there has to be some plan in place. You can't keep turning away from it. And parents have got to face it early, just starting from early intervention, because it makes a huge difference. Don't be ashamed. Don't worry about that. If you start seeing the signs, go get help. And that's on the early end. On the later end, there has to be help from the government. There has to be help from communities. Have to open their hearts, have to open, I mean, their job training has to happen, group homes, I mean, it's overwhelming, I know, but just start with community involvement. That's the beginning.
How about people living with autism in the United States? What kind of support do they receive from the government or the society?
Well, they get support the government by law. I mean, it's a law that they have to have group homes, that they have, in which our tax dollars support that. We all have group homes. We do have jobs. There are places, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, all these places in the States. That's where autistic people work, for instance. KFC. They're there wiping the tables off. They're at the, or they're at the cash register. Some autistic people are really good with numbers. They are really good, you know. I mean, my gosh, they're obsessed with cleaning. Some are so good, it's like, all right, it's clean, please stop. You know, it's, you know, it's, they're useful. These people are useful members of society. With just a little help, they can learn.
What are some of the most popular misunderstandings about autism and people living with autism?
I think that they can't connect to people, and that they are not useful members of society, and that there really isn't any use, well, that there's not any use for them, and there's no way to reach them. And that's why in my exhibition, I wanted to make sure that I showed powerful connection between family members. First of all, I hope people will open their hearts and see the beautiful connection that family members share with that they are loved and they're capable of loving. I hope they will understand there are job opportunities. There are, I mean, they need to know that there are things that these people can do. They can be valuable members. It's just time to start integrating them. Get them out of their houses. The parents, the families are amazingly strong. They've built mountains. They've created an amazing lives for these children, these young adults, but they can't do it alone. And there are things, they're capable, but just take a minute. Take a minute. Don't just judge them. Don't just judge them just by that first sight. Take a minute to get to know them, maybe, to talk to their families, see what they can do, what they're capable of doing.
Thank you very much, Debbie, for coming here and sharing your inspiring story with us. And thank you very much for being in Vietnam and to help raise awareness of Vietnamese people on autism. And best of luck with your future endeavors, and hope to see you again in Vietnam soon.
Thank you so much. I hope to be back very soon.
And that's it for this edition of Talk Vietnam. I hope you've enjoyed our show as much as I have. And until next time.